I found Lisa. She was all alone.
Oh my God, my friends, they're all here.
Okay, Lisa.
How's everybody doing?
Going very good.
Very good. That sounds great.
Yeah, I was at a retreat these last 7 days. It was a meditation retreat in the mountains. So
Ooh,
it was in Boone, North Carolina.
Wow.
was it like a silent retreat or was it
Yeah, it was a silence retreat.
I've always wanted to try one of those. Okay, I know that we're having like a DataOps meeting, but I really want to hear your experience.
I agree.
It was really good, though. It's called The Art of Living Part 2. And they take you into several days of silence and they guide you through the meditations. You go for nature walks, you eat great, healthy food, but yummy, not healthy, bad food, but healthy, yummy food. And you come out so recharged. It's For me, it felt like the more busy you get, the more you have to go into silence, even if it's once every 6 months. Their recommendation was every 4 to 5 months, but at least once every 6 months. I think I really liked it. I feel so refreshed and recharged.
That's nice.
And there was no mumbo jumbo, it was just mathematical precision. You learn how to breathe in a certain way. They guide you through these different breathing processes and meditations, and then you just zone out for hours at a time.
Oh, I really want to try it now. Yeah, because like a lot of the retreats, even the day retreats that I find around me sometimes are like there's a lot of other things around it that I don't want. Like I just want the meditation alone. I don't want to have
Just leave me alone.
all of
Is
the
that
extra
what you want?
healing sometimes that I try and do. Um I will look into some in North Carolina. I've never done anything like that though, so I feel like maybe like a 1 or 2 day. It's probably
They
better,
have a
right?
3 day variant as well.
Yeah.
They have a 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, 7 day, and 10 days. But usually they
Yeah.
recommend starting off with the 3 to 4 day. And then over time, you are able to go deeper. But initially, the 3 days is all you need. 3 to 4 days. It's
Okay.
perfect. Take Friday off and then you go into it. I took a couple of extra days off because it was a longer variant. I've done several of those in the past. So it was nice.
Okay. Oh, exciting. Well, okay, I'll definitely poke your brain a little bit more and get more of your experiences. But since Dan's not here, you're the honorary sage. This is the way that we're gonna do it. Also, we have a new person joining. Hi, Anna. Are you going to be able to participate during the meeting through video and voice? We'd love to do introductions if so.
Yeah, definitely. I can go by voice.
Awesome. Well, we can do a round of introductions since we have some new folks in today and just to get people a chance to orientate themselves a little bit. I can go first. So my name is Lisa. I am sort of the wrangler of the DataOps initiative. I think that's the best way to put it. Currently working as a product manager on an open source meta store called Apache Gravitino. And generally speaking, the whole point of the DataOps initiative is to create sort of like this learning slash knowledge sharing forum for like senior engineers who are really interested in like productionizing different data applications and pipelines and things like that. I would say that's like the general gist of it. Yeah, we meet bi-weekly and we always have a lot of different fun things going on, a lot of different projects and people's expertise, and we go off on tangents and we encourage people to rant. That is, I think, the number one thing that we do the most. If anybody else wants to go next.
I'll go next. I'm
Oh, go on.
Roxanne. I work for the Continuous Delivery Foundation. So I do the content part, well, publishing part of everything. So anything you see on the website, the blog posts, I will make sure they go live and are promoted. Vivek, you can go next.
We were saying the same words at the same time. I work for Target's delivery division called Shift, and I've been managing the data operations team for a few years now. Recently, I started managing their ML operations. Because data operations is such a new field, I was very excited to be part of this DataOps initiative to try and be part of that initial group of thought leaders and individuals to figure out what actually is data operations, how do we help share best practices across companies to really make sure data is available where it needs to be, in the form it needs to be, when it needs to be. So I've had great experiences already over the last few weeks.
I can go. My name is Anna. I am a fractional CPO. I'm currently working on a federated A to A economy for agents to exchange information. My background is in demand supply platform for ads. And so I've been working on this for a couple of years now.
I'm Jesse, formerly military, formerly government management analyst, and now freelance playing technical writer and rubber duck for all the smart ideas here.
Yeah, Victor Liu, independent. Been Oracle, worked for Oracle for 17 years. That's why I'm interested in data ops.
Hi, everybody. I am a cloud infrastructure engineer at IBM. I also have experience in data from my past work and contracts. I do a lot of talking about agent ops and AI strategy, and I also really like data ops. So yeah.
Exciting. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. I know it's in the middle of summer, so there's a lot of vacationing going on. So it's exciting to see that there's still folks showing up because they love data ops so much that they want to come. So one of the things that we usually do for these meetings, just in case anybody hasn't been going regularly, is that every other meeting we usually do our birds of a feather, which is like an open-ended discussion. This meeting is not one of those meetings. So next meeting, we're going to be talking about meta stores. Anna, I feel like that might be a little bit more up your wheelhouse, because then we can talk about things like, how to generate things like SBOMs, or what sort of metadata is really relevant in those situations as well. And maybe even how agents can use or leverage metadata or manipulate metadata. I think that's something that's really interesting. Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, not to create like a tangent, but since we talked so much about agents in Vivek's presentation, really thinking about the idea of how does ACID compliance look for agents who are working with data. I think that's a really interesting rabbit hole to go down, and if agents should be ACID compliant if they're working with databases. But anyways, we're not going to go into that. We're going to do some housekeeping things today, pretty much, and I'm going to share my screen. So let's see, everybody should be able to see this. And so one of the things that I want to do for this meeting is kind of do a quick catch up on a lot of the different projects that we have going on. And I think a really good way to actually jump into that is by going into our roadmap update. So I'm gonna circle back to the e-learning course and certifications. But one of the things that has happened since we've started the DataOps initiative is that our scope has gone from something really tight to something really large, and we keep adding more and more things, and I keep encouraging it, so we're not stopping anytime soon. Sorry, not sorry. One of the things that I want to do is really communicate whether or not we all agree on this being where we want to break up the different projects of the initiative, and kind of who we want to have own some of those things, so that then I can kind of keep track of them a little bit better. So everybody can see this. I've switched tabs. Yes, correct. Awesome. And so one of the things on this roadmap is I want to start breaking these larger things down into smaller ones, but I also want us to really agree on what are the really important things that add the most value to the ecosystem immediately. Because that's something that I think if we're pursuing all of these things at once, without the really defined goals and without high prioritization metrics, it's going to be the sprawl is going to be really big, and we're just going to have everybody owning one thing. And I want to make sure that we are able to really have deliverables that make sense for the ecosystem in general. So initially, this was our goal for the initiative, was just to develop high-level blog posts and really kind of collaborate with OPIA and the CD Foundation to be able to kind of create DataOps practices, and then eventually develop like some course materials so that we can do like sort of more of a hands-on certification. So it was a very loose and open-ended initiative goal, and we kept it pretty open. And then over time, in each meeting, we kept doing more and more things. And so this is sort of the new goals that I have for the initiative. And so I'm going to go over every single one of these, and I want everybody to sort of agree on the wording. So please feel free to nitpick. And you should be able to access this through the minute meetings doc, but I'm also going to make sure that this is shared with anybody who needs to know. But generally speaking, the first thing, and this is in no particular order, is reference architecture. So this was brought up last meeting, and I think it's actually quite important for us to focus on creating reference architectures that are vendor neutral, that integrate all of these different source systems with these different goals, especially from like a platform perspective, right? So really keeping production in the high level. So this is something that Vivek mentioned, and Kiara has mentioned as well, as like kind of being something that could be core to the training courses that we create. And then of course, there's also the technical learning materials as well. And so this is kind of like a broader thing. I want like the Git book and the blog post to kind of nest under this and generally focus on things like case studies and tutorials. But generally speaking, I think this is sort of our catch-all for anybody who wants to contribute as like either a one-time or in a limited capacity to the DataOps initiative if they want to write like a guest blog post. There's also the ecosystem landscape. So this is something that Dan has been working on, where we have our entire landscape there. We've spent a lot of time in meetings talking about the landscape and like the categories. But just to kind of review sort of some of the work that's been going on, it is an extra tab here in the meeting minutes. And generally speaking, this is sort of a collaboration that will pull a lot from the CNCF, but will ultimately live with the CDF. And these are sort of like our very high level categories, and then we have our evaluation frameworks that we're going to use, and this is sort of like our rubric for how we want to assess different tools and whether or not they actually make it to the landscape. And those that are highlighted in green are going to be our top categories that we focus on first. So this is a pretty exhaustive list, but we're not going to guarantee that we're going to be able to bet on all of these different facets just for the sake of time. And then we're going to create like a PR process where people can submit their tools, and then we're going to evaluate them. And so evaluation framework is also part of this as well. So this is something that both Kiara and Vivek have also brought up at different times again. So I think that they're both very similar in terms of like what they feel is very additive to the ecosystem. And so things like maturity models, how to assess your own organization in terms of different DataOps practices, but also like different tooling evaluations as well. The landscape is more so just like these are all the tools that we deem are like kind of have reached an appropriate maturity level within a given category. An evaluation framework is something that's more like, okay, given a particular tool, how are we actually evaluating it and whether or not it's suitable for our particular stack. And then, of course, all of these have different aims. And then there's also community workshops as well. So Dan is currently working on a workshop. I've done a workshop for the fundamentals of DataOps. And this is something that I think technically can go under technical learning materials, but generally speaking, like again, sort of more of like the one-off type thing. Because Roxanne and Saeem handle most of the workshops, we just kind of act as a funnel to kind of make sure that any DataOps workshops reach them and have the appropriate information. And then of course, there's the LF certification and training course. And so we've kind of talked a little bit last time about making it more scenario-based. This is something that will shape over time as we kind of start to build it. But I think that generally speaking, with kind of the way that AWS has structured their exams, we're probably better off kind of trying to match that as much as possible, and instead of like trying to do like really like specific rote technical skills or tools that may be outdated eventually. You can see under all of these that I've put contact people. This is not something that I want to really put on the website yet, but in my mind, this is like if I had somebody who could be the owner of some of these things, like who might that be? Some of these have more clear owners than others. as you can see. And like nobody's really volunteered to do these yet, but I just kind of figured that based on the stuff that people are already working on, this might be their interest. So I want to open up to the floor if there's any sort of wording issues that people have with these before it goes on the website. If not, then it looks good. I do want to talk about then as well what might be the most important. So in terms of people's ranking of what would add the most immediate value to the general ecosystem and field, like I'd love to hear people's maybe like top 2 or 3 things that they think that we should be focusing on.
For me, the ecosystem landscape turns out it goes to the top of my list.
Yep.
Having that
Mhm.
catalog of what tool can help solve what need, I think for me that would be the first priority. And then second in line with that would be technical learning materials to understand how do we use all of these different tools. And then finally, all these two will tie into the reference architectures.
Okay, I'm gonna put like little numbers here, so that like these are kind of like the votes. And then the third one you said was the reference architectures, was it?
Yes. And reference
Yeah.
architectures and community workshops may go hand in hand. I don't know if community
Mhm.
workshops should come first and then we work towards building out these reference frameworks, or if reference frameworks can go. I think both will lead into each other as a feedback mechanism.
Yeah, I definitely agree so as well. The way that I see reference architectures being distributed initially is probably through something like a blog post where you can have like living reference architectures or as a page on the CDF website. And then the community workshops are just like whoever wants to run like a 1 hour workshop, but the scope is also like very high. And I think there's a lot of variety. Whereas I think reference architectures are much more structured. Like we want a reference architecture for like this particular stack or this particular goal. And that way we can work a little bit backwards. Does anybody else have preferences on what they think that we should be focusing on the most?
I would also put the landscape first, just because I think everyone is looking for the tools and they don't really know. So having a guide would be probably good. And then I can promote that. And yeah, then we can feed into it with the other stuff.
What
The course will
about
take a long time, so yeah, we should start working on it, but yeah.
okay, let's put course down here. All right. And do you have a third, or are those your top 2?
No.
Anybody else?
I thought,
Go ahead. Sorry, Kira. Go ahead.
yeah, no worries. My first thought is, of course, the landscape as well, too, just for people to see what's out there. And then after that, of course, immediately going to technical learning materials, just so people can get up to speed. And then from there, I'm really big on testing, so eval frameworks really make sense. I think that's gonna be my other one. Reference architectures are great, but I think just getting people up to speed makes like more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Kira has convinced me to change my vote. I think my reference architecture vote will now go to evaluation frameworks because I think that's more logical. We are providing them with, hey, here's a running list of the existing tools and the needs it will solve, the materials to learn about them, and then finally, how do you figure out which is right for you? And then we can move on to the architectures.
Anna, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to support the evaluation as first and then the landscape. But my reasoning behind that is the critical thinking behind the ethical and sustainable evaluation of those frameworks, so that that is part of the open process that people are doing when they're doing these choices. I find that the engineers and the people that I'm working with currently don't have those type of scope 3 cost. Um, it's not as transparent when we're doing those developments. And if you're using, huge systems, that can be extremely expensive for companies in that. And I'll see a lot of that. So the evaluation is very important for me.
Is there a third thing that you might find really important as well?
I think community workshops, again, my background is that I've been living in Africa for the last 3 years, and I see that, the world is, this revolution is coming in that 25% of the world's IP does not know how to integrate these different types of frameworks. But again, that's international versus domestic and Bay Area. But if you'd like to go international, that'd be great too in your process. But I see that community is very important. Is very few people that understand this world right now. And to bring them up, because we're going to, at the end of the day, change the world and change how people are going to be working and interacting with tools, even if they're not technical.
Yeah, absolutely. I think global workshops should be a focus of what we do, and I think most of us are kind of distributed throughout the world anyways. So I think being friendly to all of the different time zones and making sure that everything's accessible is great. I don't know if you've seen, but we've done like a fundamentals of data ops workshop. Roxanne, I don't know if you have that link handy, but maybe we can link it for Anna. And I think that's like a really good, it's pretty intermediate, I would say, but it's a really good, like really high level, like this is everything you need to know, at least as we've kind of defined it about data ops. And if you're interested in circulating that around, or if you know anybody who might be interested in that, please do share it. I want to make sure that we're as beginner friendly as possible. Victor, do you have any like particular opinions on what we should focus on first?
There are so many, so I don't have any thought about what to start from at this point.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I think the clear winner out of all of this is the ecosystem, and then evaluation frameworks. And I really like that because I think that they go pretty hand in hand, because once you give people the tools, there's always that sort of idea of like, oh, there's all these shiny new things, let's just go straight into throwing them in our stack and then creating all this technical debt. And so giving people these different tools and then giving them a way to assess whether or not it's a tool that they should actually seriously consider implementing is actually really important. So I think that's really good. And then once they've decided to maybe implement or work on it, we can then create some technical learning materials around that, right? And so that's something that I think really has a nice flow to it. And then we can also add in some more. But I do like the evaluation framework. And I think when I think about the data ops initiative, so there's a couple of things that I also see as caveats here. The first is that there's a ton of ecosystem bloat right now. Like everybody has their own landscape. Like every single VC firm has their own landscape. Every single GitHub repo out there like can have landscapes too. And so I think there's going to be a little bit of noise to cut through. We have a lot of credibility as the CDF to put together a landscape that makes sense. And so one of the things that I think of when we're going to put out a landscape is a lot of the AI, ML, data engineers out there are probably going to just see us as another landscape. But a lot of the DevOps engineers actually are going to probably leverage and use this landscape as their go-to to jump into the ecosystem, who are doing the data ops work. So I want to make sure that we're keeping that top of mind. But I do think that it's a great way for us to really make our name. But one of the things that I really like is the evaluation framework. And I think the reason why is because the CDF is like a neutral party. Like we're not a vendor, we don't have a particular thing. So we actually really gain a lot from providing an evaluation framework because nobody else really has the incentive to. Like a company would never really do that for their own products. And so I think that we're probably the only ones that can do it, especially given that we're part of the Continuous Delivery Foundation. This is the DataOps initiative. This is a very vendor neutral space. And so one of the things that I feel is a little bit hard to figure out is how we want to structure and create the evaluation framework, and what does a V1 of this look like. We are pretty far ahead on the landscape, which is great because we all voted for it, so it doesn't make any extra work for me. But Kiara, Vivek, I'd love to hear what you feel like the form of an evaluation framework should look like and how people should use it and where it should live. And like, should it be a rubric or should it be like a survey tool, things like that.
I think if there's a web form of sorts, some sort of what is it called? A flow chart, I think that'll be helpful, where either
Mhm.
like a type form of sorts where you enter the information and it shows based on these, this is what might be more suitable for you. So I think it has to be a combination of both the rubric as well as having an auto selector of sorts, a guided selector rather.
Okay. I'm gonna put this out here. So flow chart, and then like self-evaluation
Yeah.
tooling. Yeah. Okay. I think a flow chart makes sense, and that's something that I think is really easy to kind of build upon once you kind of start it, and it kind of helps people make more fine-grained decisions. And one of the things too is that we can scaffold the flow chart so that we
Yeah.
can kind of go, how deep do you want to get in the weeds of this decision making, or do you just need to make like a really quick high-level decision? Would it be okay to kind of like, maybe not for next meeting, but at least like 2 meetings from now, bring up like maybe a very simple flow chart just so that we can start to build upon it in the meeting?
Yeah, I think that is doable.
Yeah.
And also, I'm imagining these rubrics feeding the data into these flowcharts, which will act as those evaluation metrics. Do you, let's take Google Cloud Store or any kind of cloud storage. Based on that,
Mhm.
we can figure out what kind of classes are suitable for them, what retention policies, where should. Yeah, now I'm going into solutioning, but yeah,
Okay, this is awesome. I'm very happy to hear it. And one of the things too is that if we want to create more fine-grained evaluation metrics, we can break them up by like these different category tools. So if I want to evaluate like a data lineage tool, like how would I best do that, right? Or if I want to evaluate like cloud storage, things like that, or a certain file format, I think that would be great. I'm gonna give you like a really simple, I'm just gonna ask you for a 3-level flowchart first. And you probably will create like a 20-level flowchart just because I know that you've been having this brew in the mind. But just like as a really simple, easy win, we'll just do like easy yes, no flowchart, like at 3 levels. I'm not sure what the best tool would be to do this, if it's Miro or anything like that, but maybe Roxanne could recommend some good flowcharting tools.
you might play
MS
with
Paint also works.
Sorry, feedback?
I might play with Lucidchart or
Yeah.
Miro. Sorry, I think
Yeah.
my breaking up.
Okay. I heard that, so I think we should be good. So we'll probably do like a lucid chart, simple 3-level, and then with the knowledge that once you bring it into the meeting, we're all probably gonna have ideas and start throwing into it, which I think is what we want. Okay, so thank you, Vivek. I'm volunteering you for this.
Yeah. And one last thing to add there from my side is I think long term, the vision is to have some kind of this, I don't know, I don't want to use the term chat GPT, but something which is already integrated into the Linux Foundation system where people can interact with this bot-like service, and that will guide them through the architectures and either provide references to links or act as that active communication channel.
I'm just gonna put LFX agent because that's what it sounds like. But I think that it would be good too. It's like something that knowing these different requirements, some sort of agent or chat that will ask these questions back at you and help you think about whether or not these needs are. So maybe one of the levels of the flowchart is like, cost. And so one of the things that, something that's more interactive can do is ask, what is your budget for this anyways? Like who is actually going to be paying for it? What department is going to be paying for it? And then once you're feeding that information in, it can then help you evaluate through that flow chart as well, and then be able to give you some of like those reports. I really like that idea. Awesome. So other things on the agenda that we have. So everybody's okay with it being on the website. I'm not going to put the contact persons on there. It's just mentally kind of how I kind of have started to organize things. And so of course, all of the work is self-volunteering and you can take breaks at any time. This is not anybody's full-time job. But I'm happy to see it kind of come together. Roxanne, did you want to mention the PyTorch conference before we move on to the e-learning course?
Yeah, I just saw that and I thought you might all be interested. And the CFP is open and closes August 1st. Yeah, that's it. It's mostly AI and data topics. Scroll down, all the topics are there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the things that's really cool is that the PyTorch project has like an ecosystem as well, and you can submit to be part of that ecosystem. And so it can actually like span way like larger than the actual models themselves, and instead like to be a little bit more data ops focused, which is I think one of their goals anyways. Definitely looks good. Let's see where the PyTorch conference is happening. Is
San
it in
Francisco.
person? San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if anybody comes, we can hang out. So that's a nice little bonus as well. And I'll see if I can submit. And this is something that Victor did as well, is that he's added some of us as co-authors. Actually, while we're doing that, Victor, do you want to provide an update on the DOK day that we currently like had a session planned for?
At this point, we don't have any planned yet. So for people who don't know, DOK is database on Kubernetes. So there are a lot of opportunity for collaboration between DataOps and DOK. And Paul, who manages the DOK community, also managed another community called Data Mesh Learning Community. So yeah, anything you can think of about data ops, and then when it comes to Kubernetes, cloud native, as well as data mesh, yeah, bring it on. I think there should be some good opportunities to have collaboration between the two communities.
Okay, fantastic.
Sorry for copy paste.
It's okay. I'm just gonna put collaboration ideas. And if anybody has any collaboration ideas, they're more than welcome to. One of the things that we thought about doing was like a merge panel between the DataOps initiative and the CNCF community, because I think that there's a lot of crossover. So if anybody's interested in anything like that, we can also organize it to be online, so we can broaden the scope out. People won't have to travel for it, and then we can create more content around that as well. And I think that's really exciting. There was another, I think, event or initiative that we wanted to do as well, which is MCP panel part 2. And I think, Roxanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but Garima and Muktash, who were part of the CDF, reached out after we, MCP, after we did our last sort of birds of a feather, and they wanted to do a formal panel around MCP, and they're kind of waiting for us to, you know, kind of either give the green light on organizing it, or am I correct on that?
Yes, I think they're excited about it and they are open to it. There's no deadline. So when you all are ready, we can coordinate and I can schedule it and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty open-ended, but I'm assuming that we would probably need like a moderator.
Yes,
then
and Vivek
panelists.
said he was interested in participating. And if I recall, he said he would like at least Lisa or someone else to be there with him from our side.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on it. I'm also happy to moderate if somebody else wants to be on the panel, or if somebody else wants to be moderator. They certainly can. I'm gonna put Garima and Muktash on here because I'm assuming that they probably want to be on it
I
as
think
well.
so, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anybody who would want to be on this panel? So essentially, the idea of the panel would be to have different DevOps and DataOps engineers or experts come together to evaluate the model context protocol that was released by Anthropic, and sort of some of the ideas in terms of how scalable it is, whether or not it is a good API, some of the fields that it looks at, and how it might be used in different architectures. So because it's a panel, whoever's moderator will be in charge of like creating questions for the panelists and sort of setting some of that direction as well. It's going to be pretty open-ended though, and fairly casual, I assume.
Victor, I don't know if you saw in the chat, Vivek would like the links to the DOK. Do you have specific links, Vivek, that you want, or?
I remember him sharing a link for the registration and
I see.
link.
Like for the event, you mean?
Yeah, for the
Oh.
event. I'll check the CD Foundation Slack channel as well. I remember him sharing somewhere.
Okay.
Just remember where.
Yeah, there's no joint event scheduled as yet at this point. If you need the link to the DOK community, I'll post it in the chat.
Thank you.
And Lisa, Paul from the OK wants to meet with us, so we can coordinate that offline.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just gonna put here Lisa and Roxanne to meet with Paul for logistical stuff. And just to collaborate a little bit more as well. Like we can even do a separate workshop or panel just for data on Kubernetes. I think that's
Yeah,
fine.
for sure. They also have a landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So if anybody has a recommendation for a strong moderator or another panelist, I'll be involved in some sort of capacity. I'm happy to be flexible on either one, but if you know anybody or if you yourself would want to be on the panel, we'll probably organize it. I would say maybe for September or late August.
We can see if Lori's interested. I know she's not like a data expert, but
yeah,
she's usually game.
yeah, she's pretty good as well. I'm also gonna put maybe Dadisi down as a potentially
sounds
good
good,
moderator. Yeah. Awesome. And so I think that's most of the stuff for the event. So we can get into the learning courses and certifications as well. Yeah, the only thing that I want to add is Dan is going to be teaching another workshop with us in August. And so we've kind of fleshed this out. Last meeting, I accidentally cut us a little bit short. And so Dan and I stayed behind to flesh out some of these. So before I completely move on to the courses, I just want to kind of say like, hey, this is going to be the workshop that we're putting together as part of our next DataOps initiative-based workshop. And this is something that I think actually ties in quite well with the DOK community. And I want to get some feedback as well. I know Dan's not here, but I'll pass on any feedback that he has to him. So one of the ideas that we're thinking about is either creating a 1-hour workshop around managing databases on Kubernetes or deploying Spark or Airflow. Eventually, I think we did like kind of scope it to just Spark. And part of this is, if you're a data engineer and you want to start deploying your applications on Kubernetes, or you have the need to deploy multiple versions of your applications, things like that, on some sort of cloud native framework, how can you get involved with that? And so the audience that we kind of figured were either going to be data engineers or more likely DevOps engineers who have been given a tool by their data engineering team that don't want to manage their own deployments. I think that's a little bit more realistic. I've decided to use Airflow, but I don't want to deploy Airflow on Kubernetes. You guys manage the Kubernetes clusters. Can you just deploy it for us and then we don't have to think about it? And then that's probably going to be more likely the flow. But essentially, like, let's say I'm on the receiving end of that and I'm like the Kubernetes manager and I'm thinking, okay, what is this Spark thing that I've been given to deploy? And how do I actually, manage this? And so very common application that you'll see deployed on Kubernetes due to the parallel computing aspect, Spark, just because it has many different jobs. And so we'll go into who uses Spark and why they use it, why you would be stuck with different versions of something like Spark or any other sort of engine. Why would you need to deploy multiple instances of Spark versus just having one giant Spark cluster that then you just submit all of your jobs to, and hopefully that nothing goes wrong. Different ways that you'll containerize different applications in data engineering, or mostly kind of looking at sort of what type of Docker containers are available, what those Docker files maybe look like, where you'll get them, and then how an organization uses Spark, why, again, deploy Spark on Kubernetes, ways to deploy Spark on Kubernetes. This is probably the more interesting part of me to this workshop, because there are like official Spark operators on Kubernetes, but there's also like kind of third-party ways to deploy Spark on Kubernetes, and it's kind of a little bit messy. And then how you're going to manage the resources on that Spark is using, the different configurations, the access management, and then potentially integrating with Airflow. Victor, you have your hand up?
Yeah, actually, about that, I shared a link to the Skylab, Berkeley Skylab website. What I find is that lab is really a lot of good things is happening from that lab, including Spark and VRM. So I wonder, because I have not personally used Spark. So do you think it would be helpful for people here, whoever knows, to go through the project to see anything new when it comes to data ops related? Yeah, so there's just tons of things happening, and you almost can guarantee to find something kind of unicorn from that website sooner or later again.
Yeah, this is also from Berkeley, right? So for those of you who don't know Spark, Spark was originally born out of Berkeley by the now founders of Databricks. And so that was kind of what actually caused Databricks to become a company, was that they wanted to do managed Spark, which was originally an academic project. So Berkeley has like a lot of love for that ecosystem for sure. Yeah, definitely. If you want to cross post this in the DataOps Slack channel as well, that way people can refer to it. This is a really cool thing that you've posted here to kind of look at. So definitely we'll forward it over to Dan as well. I think you might be interested in some of this stuff. Fantastic. Yeah, is there any other feedback on sort of the, like, I guess, agenda for the workshop? Does this make sense to everybody? Is there anything that you feel should be added or should be removed?
This looks very holistic, so I don't have any additional feedback.
Okay, awesome. Well, when Dan gives the workshop and we all complain about it, don't say that I didn't give you guys the chance to change it.
We can
But,
always give
I am
another
excited.
workshop. It's not a big
Yeah, give a follow-up workshop. Fantastic. So Roxanne, you've gotten the chance to, I guess, work with Dan to maybe schedule this?
I will, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And then
I
this
was
is kind
hoping
of the
he'd
main
be here
information.
so I could ask him for a date, but I'll just
Yeah.
message him.
Sounds good. Okay, and the next, I think last piece of our agenda is going to be, or the second to last before we get into next week's Birds of a Feather, is going to be the Linux Foundation e-learning course. Victor, do you want to summarize this? I'm assuming that this was.
I posted that.
Oh, you did.
Because
Okay.
I messaged like the people from the website, the ones who organize everything. So they sent me a long document of all the things we need to do if we want a course and how all their guidelines. But basically this is the gist of it. And we would be in touch with this person and we give her 2 authors. And then the authors do everything and she publishes it on the Linux Foundation once it's ready. And then the certificate is a completely different thing and another person. So I would have to ask this person. So my question is, does it make sense we work on a class or a course first, or do I do them simultaneously?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that Victor's put together some documents as well in terms of how we actually create the curriculum and course.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I think he brought up that was really good actually was whether or not we make the exam first and then create a course that would prepare somebody for that.
Yeah.
That maybe makes a bit more sense, and then we save some of the Gitbook work that Jesse's working on currently as part of like that catch-all for like if you really want something from 0 to 1, this is where you go. But if you just want to pass the exam, like this is the scope of the course.
Okay, then I will
yeah.
ask how the certificate works, and then we can work backwards.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah, okay. I'm planning to meet with Victor again sometime today, so I'll ideally in the next couple of weeks have more of like some idea or concrete stuff for the Linux Foundation course. But also, given how we've kind of voted here, I do want to make sure that we push these two out probably within like the next, I would say like 4 months or so. It's probably a very generous timeline, but I mean, we're all volunteers here. I'm not going to push anybody too hard. And then this is probably like a very long-term goal that we have in the background.
Agree. And if anyone has a blog post or a workshop, like you don't have to wait. You can send me your idea and we publish it in the meantime. You know, these can all happen at once.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I agree as well. Awesome. Jesse, speaking of the Gitbook, were there any updates on that? It's been a minute since I brought it up.
I currently no updates on that. I'm still working on parsing through the workshop to try and get that information dialed in and separated out. And I know that I still need to work with Roxanne on getting the new visualizations that we actually have control over. That will probably, once I get everything figured out and organized properly, I'll send that out for everybody to take a look at because I know that some of them, I know you mentioned were out of date or we were borrowing from people. And so if we can get something that's more specific to us, I'd rather, you know, I know you went through like one section that was, you know, multiple of like covering like data flow and all the different architectures. And if we could like simplify that to like 2 or 3 and like specific to what we're trying to, I guess, like get people on the same page for the purposes of like CI/CD, like that'd be great. But yeah, once that's done, I'll get it pushed out and hopefully get it over to Roxanne, so we're not just publishing the images and everything in weird orders. So
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, it sounds like there's like definitely very some strong concrete next moves. One of the things that I might ask as a favor is that we'll probably create another tab here for the DataOps Gitbook. And if you want to throw in any information in here that you feel is relevant, if you want to link it, if you want to do like a little overview, that way as we go through these meetings, we can kind of like peruse through these different tabs. And so everybody can kind of not have to have too much sprawl when it comes to documentation. There we go. Fantastic. And then one of the things I'll do is probably meet with you separately so we can kind of set like an idea for how we want to shape like a chapter 1 or an introductory chapter so that we I feel like the scope of this is so large and overwhelming that we want to kind of start breaking it up.
I do think that a lot of it as far as like scope, I mean, if it seems that we're going to have like Victor working on cert/course as well, truthfully, in my mind, if you're wanting people all on like the same page, if you're working at like a base level cert, whatever that base level is, like that's what we should be able to get book off of. So we're not having to go back, tear everything back down to reorganize it.
Yeah, I like that idea too. So I'll meet with Victor later today, and then we'll probably discuss that a little bit, and then maybe in the next couple meetings, we'll hash out the certification first, and then we'll figure out how we want to structure that, and then we'll just do we'll put the Gitbook as sort of a lag behind that because I feel like one's from the bottom up and one's from the top down at the moment. We do want them to meet in the middle eventually. Okay, sounds good. So the only other thing that I want to add for this meeting, and it's ended up being a much beefier meeting than I thought it would be. I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about, but we actually do have a lot. Is the next Birds of a Feather. So like I said, Victor, I'm planning to meet with you later today. I know you gave me some availabilities. He's going to be helping run the next open discussion on meta stores. And so for a lot of folks who've been kind of involved in the data community over the last year or two, there has been a really large rise in open source data catalogs, particularly for things like Iceberg or different open table formats. And instead of just having a traditional business catalog these days, that sort of definition of a data catalog has kind of extended to also include like technical metadata and eventually probably also semantic metadata. And so one of the things that I think is really interesting to discuss is what is a useful metastore? How do we define a metastore? How is a metastore likely to be used in a generative AI context, especially when it comes to like things like data governance, provenance, second data brain type stuff. So there's a lot of different things on that. And we do plan for it to be recorded. I mean, this meeting is recorded and posted on YouTube, but we do plan to see if the discussion can be extrapolated out next meeting so that we can kind of post it as a standalone. And so we can do another like kind of cool, catchy, like DataOps engineers discuss metastores type thing. So please do be there and bring any thoughts and strong opinions that you have. Certainly the place to put it. And yeah, is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up in the last few minutes? No?
Oh,
Okay.
our website might be down. I will have a date. They have to migrate it. So yeah, I will let you all know when that will be.
I don't know why. There's something really funny about the CDF website being down because those DevOps engineers are doing the migration.
I'm assuming you're going to announce that in the Slack channel, Roxanne, or is that going to go out by email?
Sorry?
Is that announcement of like when it's going to be down going to be on the Slack channel, or is that going to be
I
by
will
email?
post it everywhere I can. I don't know exactly when. I'm waiting for the admins to say which week they would prefer. They said a week, which is a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Until
So
then,
we'll
I will
see.
be refreshing the page constantly. All right. Well, yeah, well, we're at time. Thanks everybody for coming. We have so much, so much. Please do take time, enjoy your summer, go meditate. I love Vivek. And enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.